Trash bag?
Oh my gosh,
What?
is he? What's going on?
What is happening? Good morning, everybody. This is MMA Junkie Radio's pre-show.
What is happening?
From George walked in front of the sports book, but it's really dark, so it looked like you were wearing a trash bag.
Yeah. Like, what's going on today?
We're back, baby.
We're already off the rails.
George, can you walk in front of the camera with that on?
Please.
So people know what we're talking about. It looked like a trash bag from out there because it was so dark. That's why he came in. He ruined the pre-show. We were all ready to go.
We had this whole thing planned out.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, I'm Goes. That's Dan. Voice you hear in your head. Danny Okers.
That me.
Gorgeous George off to the side. We'll be walking in soon.
I didn't see the garbage bag.
Oh.
I missed it.
Actually,
oh, there it is. Now I see it. Oh, it's an inflatable inner tube.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know that I could say. But I don't know. Think of all the scenarios where you could actually use that. Half of them are for snow. I mean, you know that ain't gonna happen. So then
he's gonna go down the lazy river after the show.
Perhaps
during the show.
During the show.
I just had the weirdest commercial just pop up on my YouTube thing. It was Shaq holding a bottle that I'm pretty sure said Golden Refreshment, and he was smiling awfully big.
Dude,
I don't want to know.
Oh my God.
He's selling anything these days.
Yeah, the General. He does Gold Bond, right? Like foot powder, and then he does the.
Maybe they have a drink for it
hot.
now.
Coming back in a minute.
God, he does a bunch. Just non-stop.
Jeez. I want to see what those Generals tapings look like when it's just him doing his lines before they add in the General. That must be great.
I don't like the General.
Me neither. I don't.
First of all, nobody has it. I don't know how they stay in business. And second of all, the Penguin makes no sense.
It's the General's, like, coming up in 30.
But explain to me why, Danny. Why a Penguin?
Do you think that who pays less rent, the General or that Geico lizard? That Geico lizard's got an awful lot of mileage just being a lizard with that accent.
He lives like in a box.
Like if he talked like us, do you think that lizard would get that much mileage?
Living in a cardboard box.
Just saying.
5 seconds.
All right, guys. Coming up. Stand by.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMA Junkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Gold. This is what we do and why we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yes!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communications stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMA Junkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the KOCI studios in Coast. Oh wait, I'm back. Goes. Dan, can you believe it's almost been a month since I've been here in Vegas? Couldn't believe it.
Almost 3 weeks or
over 3 weeks.
So.
Over 3 weeks.
Sure,
easy, yeah.
3.5. Wow. I was closing in on 1 month. You know, part of it was the vacation, and then part of it was just going to broadcast there because here at the Mandalay Bay Sportsbook, our home, they are doing some renovations. And wow, even though it's still dark, right, guys? It's not just me. Like
Dark?
we usually have a little bit more light.
Yes, it is darker than usual.
Okay.
No, you're not crazy.
So even though it's
yeah.
dark
Yes?
and they've kind
I
of
think so.
cleaned up a little bit, those are some massive screens.
Oh,
Like-
I think it's darker because the TVs aren't on, right?
Is that what it is?
Because I think
Probably.
the lights are all the lights seem like
Oh,
they're
maybe
on.
you're right.
It's that front of the
I
house.
walked in, it seemed darker, but yeah, I bet you they know something. I don't know. Maybe it is that, but this is pretty cool. It's pretty cool, and it's only a small. What would you call this? A 5% renovation?
No.
10%?
This, for the whole sports book,
Compared to what they said they're gonna do in 2 years before the Raiders come.
I'd say it's at least 20%.
Well, they just put in these screens, right? Or did I miss something?
Well, they took down a lot of the odds. They put all those TVs there on the front row. I don't know if you can see them.
hmm
And then they added 3 major screens.
What
So at
TVs in the
least-
front row? I just see these two.
See Scott right there?
Yeah.
Look, see the TV above him?
Yeah.
Look above that, but coming out underneath the big screens. That's
okay.
a whole new
all right,
row
that's
of
cool.
screens.
That's cool. Well, we're all back home, back here from vacation. I hope, Dan, you had a nice vacation. And I think you shared with us that you also had some doctor's visits, so I hope all that went well.
Still waiting on a lot of results, but I have I guess tentatively I have a cousin of one of Brock Lesnar's thing. I don't have diverticulitis, but I have diverticulosis.
That
So
exists?
Yeah.
Okay.
It can turn into diverticulitis if I'm not careful, but they're going to tell me more about that and all the samples they took from me. So, yay.
Did you enjoy your time off?
Yeah, it was good. I got much needed rest, got some things done. You never get everything you want to get done, of course. You're always going to miss some things, but yeah, man, I guess rest probably the main thing I got done. What about you guys?
Well, how about you guys?
Yeah, I split it in rest and then being super active and then rest and then super active. So I got that done. I was happy.
George looking good, by the way. The tan, you got a nice bronze going on. You didn't get burned, did you? You look good.
No, this is a burn. I
mean, it's a burn.
It's
Okay.
It's an upgrade,
All right.
but
George
but
looks like an Academy Award right
It's
now.
a burn. I look like George Hamilton right about now. I should be filming one of them Colonel Sanders commercials.
The extra crispy host.
How was your
Okay.
vacation, Danny Elkers?
It was pretty good. I mean, I still had my other job, but I was telling the guys it was just nice to not have to wake up to an alarm and to just kind of like go in late type of thing. So that was nice.
Okay. Well, I mean, I was basically in California, so it was still a staycation, even though I wasn't in Las Vegas because I consider Cali a home.
Mm-hmm.
A few days with the parents, and my hub when I go back to California is usually Big Ralph's house, so I was there a lot, and I found myself about Thursday, either I think it was in the afternoon. I got a text from a listener, Jason Lackey from San Francisco. He says, "Man, I can't wait for the show to come back." And I told him, I'm ready to do it, too. Like, I know what people mean about, just re-energizing your batteries. I don't know that it's as much physical as it is mental. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we get to do that on the weekends. We get to do that on Saturday, Sundays when Man U's not playing at 4:30 a.m. But we really do get to do it. But it was just the whole thing of like, I'll get to that email later or that text later. Like, just, I'm on vacation. I don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
You're running on your own time. And I was like that dude on Roadhouse. Remember the rich guy?
Yeah, Brad Wesley.
Brad Wesley.
Yeah,
Do you remember when it's like doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, doo-doo, doo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, and he's just driving on the road and he's just going back and forth, kind of like, come at me, And I think right at the end, Patrick Swayze, who plays Dalton, he has to get out of his way. But that's what I felt like. I was just happy. I told Juliet a couple times, I'll be there at 8:30, and then I told myself, actually, I don't know when I'll be there. It might be 8:15, it might be 8:30, it might be 8:45, and I don't want you to hold it against me. And that was so much fun to just kind of just do our own thing whenever we want, whenever we like.
That's good.
Whatever you like. So it was really cool, and it was really refreshing. But by Thursday, I was like, it'd be nice to get back and start talking some MMA every time a story or something would pop up. So
I'm with you because and I said sleep, like my body needed it, and one of the thing was I was kind of doing that, but more the lazy version. I didn't have the beaches probably would have motivated me to get out more, but kind of just taking my time, like you said, George. And the physical, I knew I needed rest and I knew I needed to catch up on that, and maybe it was more than I realized. But I will say the mental, The mental was different. The mental wanted to be right back here talking about MMA. The mental wanted to be, the mental felt something was off.
Right.
During the vacation, I couldn't wait to be back mentally.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, and even though it was a little bit of a quiet time, we had PFL one week and Bellator another week, and other than that, and of course any offerings that Access TV has, but other than that, UFC had finished with their last Contender Series. I think that was August 6th so for the last 2 weeks there hasn't been anything. So I'm pretty primed for this Saturday's UFC Fight Night 135 card. It's got at least 7 fighters. I scanned it real quick, and I think there's 7 ranked fighters going. We have an excellent main event, and there's just some compelling matchups. So I'm just really, really psyched about that and everything that comes around the corner. I think they're out in Russia one week, Sao Paulo another week. We have the Dallas card, which 2 world title fights there. So it's going to be a nice stretch, to end the year. And we're entering my favorite season of the year, the fall, because the Premier League started, football starting, exhibition if you count it. Okay, then it already started, but the regular seasons are starting. And you know what threw me off, cuz was Modern Day already played a game. The high school football team that I root for.
1 week early, huh?
Yeah, and I was like, what the fuck? I was there. I was in California. I could have went to the game. But now I guess when the kids really do go back to school early, everything gets pushed back. But who ever heard of a football game on August 17th that mattered? Not a preseason, not a scrimmage, not a controlled scrimmage, not a 7-on-7 league, an actual game that counted. I never heard of that.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a state or maybe a city or something that's now doing 4 days of school versus 5.
I've heard of that. I don't know what state it is.
Yeah, that started now too. And I don't know. I feel like kids get out like at 1:50 every day or something like that. I used to have to go till like 2:45, I think, 3.
Something like that, yeah.
What the hell's going on?
I don't know. Some schools do January. It's called 4-2-4-2-4-2, and it works January through April. You go to school. You're off May and June.
I remember that, yeah.
July, August, September.
What is that called?
October, you go to school. You're off November, December, and then you're right back. 4-2-4-2-4-2. And I started thinking, that ain't bad. Actually,
I like that.
You get 2-month vacations. But forget about, well, no, I guess you can't say forget about Christmas because that's one of your breaks. And then you still get the 2 in summer, which is May and June. I don't know. Kids got it a lot easier nowadays, that's for sure.
Hell yeah. Just the internet alone.
Wikipedia?
How long you had to flip through the encyclopedia, drop me off at the library.
The Dewey Decimal System.
Let me ask you guys something that's probably more common to you, but maybe I'm having my first experience because this is my first year. By the way,
we can't talk about sex on
August
the show,
is okay. Well, I'll try not to.
Okay.
I can't talk about my operations that I recently had. It's about making I think this month makes a year. Maybe even this week, guys. I got to go check.
You?
Yeah, a year on the show. Yeah, it was late August.
Quick, right?
Right. It's crazy, right?
The sport can gobble you up and spit you out.
It was insane. So we have our kind of our. There's this long first break here, and you guys have had many years, and in those years you have your little vacation here or there. Now tell me, at one point of the vacation, because for me it was kind of comical, I got to imagine there's a certain point of the vacation where these are family members, friends, maybe people that are aware of MMA and aware you work in it, but there's a point of your vacation where MMA is brought back to your forefront. And you're reminded about it, whether it's someone hitting you with a random question, hey, da-da-da-da, when, like George was just saying, he was in his mode where he's tuning out. I may get here at a certain time. I don't know. The last thing George maybe might want to, think about is pull up some random MMA thing. Did you guys have any of those random moments during this vacation? I want to
say you guys had to have had it, because anytime I went out with people, I got asked, Conor and Habib, huh? Mm-hmm. Nonstop.
That was one, for sure. And Brock Lesnar, that was another one that I got. But I don't like to engage them too long because
you get stuck
non-MMA fans non-hardcore fans are stupid MMA fans. Now that's why we're here to educate y'all, so tune in and take it slow and don't think you've conquered the world because you've seen a fight card or two. But I have some dumb conversations with people where it's like caveman, like Dunga, Lesnar, fight, I mean, and just like, why is Lesnar fighting Cormier? Well, see, the UFC wants, Yeah, but he's not even ringing. What about USADA? I mean, USADA. Well, okay, so he's got to serve out this. Okay, yeah, but he's not even ringing. Yeah, but the UFC, they want to make money, And Cormier, White Cormier called him out. Well, Cormier likes pro wrestling. I mean, it fucking never ends. Just with that fight alone, and then let's get into Conor and the 2 years off and Khabib and, whoo, man. So I love Junkie Nation and conversations. I want to embrace it. The first junkie I see, I want to embrace him and go, you mean a lot. You mean the world to me. Because even if it's a text or some sort of a message, I love it. See,
I'm with you, but here's where my trapping was. Mine was similar to how you just laid it out, but mine was with a family member, so I felt I couldn't get out of it. Like I called my grandmother has her birthday the day before mine. It was August 6th. Mine was on August 7th, so I'm calling her. And she called me on like a day early. Like she's like, happy birthday, and I didn't want to like break it to her my birthday, but she's old, Like my birthday's tomorrow. Like I'm just happy that she remembers me, and remembers my name at this point, right? And and before she was just like before when I even if there was a grappling tournament or when I did the amateur MMA fight, she's like, don't do that stuff, no, right? And then when I start working in it, she's like, I'm covering this. She's like, don't do that stuff. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm covering it. Okay, but it's still cage fighting, right? Now this time. Oh, so you're covering the Max Holloway fights. She's from Hawaii, by the way. So now all of a sudden it's, okay. You kind of, again, that kind of barometer of the casual, right?
Yeah.
And acceptance. And then another one was my uncle then calls, I could tell they're having a conversation. Oh, it's Daniel's birthday. So he does the call where you get the call from another relative like 5 minutes after. They just talk to each other, right? So now the uncle calls and he's like, and my uncle, by the way, people ask me, why don't I think Ronda Rousey was attractive when she was coming up? And that was like the talk. And I always said...
You thought that?
No, people would ask me why I don't think she's attractive, and not that she's attractive. She looks like a lot like my cousin, and my cousin is a daughter of my uncle who called me. And this is okay. So this is post Rousey's career now. Okay, he doesn't know Ronda. Doesn't talk about MMA or anything. All of a sudden he brings up MMA, but he goes, "Hey, what's this Ronda Rousey girl? Why is everybody asking if it's my daughter?"
Oh wow!
Like it took Ronda Rousey. She already had her popularity bubble, right, with the MMA.
Hell yeah!
But it took it for the WWE again for it to filter a casual. So I'm just getting these like barometers of like how long it takes to get to these space signals out in space before it gets to the casual families that are living on islands.
And speaking of, she won the WWE, what is it, the Raw Championship or something? I don't know. Do they call it a World Championship or?
I think so.
There's so many things that throw me off, but I believe she's the WWE Raw Women's World Champion. Too soon?
Yeah, I would think. I mean, when you see, remember when they lifted up Mankind up on his shoulders, right? all the time that he spent in the organization.
I know. I love it when they have that sort of a long grind to get there, and then it means a lot more. And to me, this one felt like it was too soon. Now, I don't watch it, and I haven't watched it in a while, so it could be that the sport's changed. But when I used to watch it, it seemed like a long road, and then finally you got the call, and then the wrestler would break down, because it is a culmination, from when you were a kid and wanted to do it, to the indies, to the farm system, and then you finally get there, and it's a lot more special. And but now you got like John Cena, 17-time world champ, and they traded back and forth so much that maybe it's lost a little bit of its luster.
That's everything though these days, right? I mean, they're just this is kind of a similar subject in a way. I mean, you could argue. I think a lot of it is the political climate that's going to generate these awards and accolades. For example. We have the movie, what was it, the Golden Globes or whatever. There's this big fuss where they're like, oh, it's clear that Disney wants to maybe get an award for themselves because it's all these Marvel movies, but these Marvel movies are not going to get, they're never up for Best Picture, which is fine. They get to rake in the $28 million and shove down the mom and pop that are trying to save the film industry, whatever. It's a fair balance. They don't get the awards. Now we're going to have a thing where it's next to Best Picture where it's like big blockbuster movie award. Like, why do we need a big blockbuster movie award? Why do we? And with the Ronda Rousey thing, I think because the WWE, they did recently they did the women, they're going to do the historic announcer all women's card, right? And there's, again, what's in politics, what's popular in social justice, what's going on there. I'm not hating or being either side of it. I'm just stating facts. What's popular, kind of we see get worked in, from even there's probably examples in MMA that are clicking as I say this. But tell me this with Rousey, I'm not following it. All I'll say is this: is that I just wanted them to do keep it simple. I wanted them to do what they initially did with Ken Shamrock. I don't know if you guys remember when Ken Shamrock went over to the WWF in like 97-ish. I wasn't even a big UFC fan or didn't know a lot about it, but I knew that guy came from cage fighting. That guy knew submissions. So when he put on that stupid little ankle hold, like I was into it. You know, I was like, yeah, I want to see this guy.
Oh, the Hurricanrana. What's it called?
Hurricanrana. And like,
yeah. Am I saying it right?
Hurricane Rada, right?
Hurricane Rana.
That's a cool move.
I could do one of those back in the day, but it's all about facilitating. I'd have the smaller guy actually do it on me, but it's about the key is having the guy who gets it done on, like, you know, they work together. And I saw somebody, and it's funny, you know, we make fun of pro wrestling, but pro wrestling is becoming more popular. I don't know about your guys' MMA timelines, but I'm seeing more pro wrestling on my timeline.
Oh, yeah.
And people, and maybe it's not the same people that will be making fun of it per se, but it's funny. People, they'll post something and be like, that, and they'll post like, that's amazing. How does this guy move that fast? And it's funny. It's just like, you know, we're so on the fence as MMA fans where we're hating it, but we're also in awe of what they do. It's a weird line. I don't know.
I've never hated it. I've always just chastised or joked or teased the ones that are obsessed with it a bit much, you know, especially because, again, not to play the old man card, but back in the day, when you showed up, you kind of didn't know what could happen. So that was part of the allure, you know what I mean? Nowadays, with social media, fuck, I wouldn't be shocked if people know that a title's going to change hands just because camera phones, social media, people can't keep a secret.
Yeah.
And then another thing is just everything that's, oh, man, I'm telling you, if you guys could just be reborn, you know, 20 years before, like, the look on our face goes when we found out that the Iron Sheik got caught with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. You know, or maybe more you. I can't remember, you know, me, but
I was devastated.
Just kind of like, what? Like, me maybe as more of an adult, I was like, how fucking dumb are they, you know, to even be rolling together?
Oh, man.
But him, he's like, oh, my God, it's fake, you know, whatever. I don't know what happened, but
at Caesar's Palace, I'm sitting there and watching Tito Santana and Damian Demento playing poker. I'm like, you guys are going to fight tomorrow. What's going on?
Yeah, and so but that's something where, like, let's say he did catch it. The only thing he could do is go to the fights or the matches, and then Monday come to school and tell his buddies at lunch, 6 or 8 guys, and then a few of them don't give a fuck. A few of them might tell a few more people, and then it ends right there. But now the power of a tweet or a video or something, and all these secrets are out, and I don't know. So that's the part where I just, but again,
can't
just,
get into it.
I just like those longer roads to winning it for something that's controlled, where you can decide, okay, it's time for her to be champ. Now, this also presents a question: is she on a fast track? Remember, she said something to either Ellen, you know, about taking her life, and then she said, but I remember she said something along the lines of, but then I remembered I love this man and I want to have his babies and blah, blah, blah. And to me, I felt like she wanted to be a mother within like 3 years or so. So could this just be a fast track where she just wants to get in there, you know, and the WWE knows they got a star, so they're moving things a little bit more quicker?
I have a conspiracy theory. You want to hear it? This is what I would do with her. Take Ronda Rousey in her whole career, and she's always knocked down walls, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what if she did this, though? This is what I always thought they should have done. Don't focus on the women's title. Have her win the men's title.
Come on, man.
I always thought that would blow people's mind away.
Well, if you're going to do it, I guess that's the sport to do it in. But, oh, that fucking shit drove me nuts. Cain Velasquez oh, man, not this.
Cain Velasquez?
Well, yeah, wasn't she on record that she could be Cain?
Oh,
she said it, I
think,
right?
Yeah, it's pro wrestling, though.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
You grab Triple H, you throw him in a lock or something, surprise him, boom, she wins the championship.
He has that moment where he thinks about tapping. He's like, I don't want to do it. And he does it. Oh, my God. I can totally see that, yeah.
I mean, think about when China used to fight guys,
have been established for a while.
Huh?
You're right.
China used to take it to some of the fighters, right?
Yeah.
So I would do one of those scenarios where...
What was she, would you say? Can anybody look it up? What was China, like 6'2", maybe? Or that had to be at least the 6 feet.
Yeah, that goes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But now I'm seeing Cyborg tweet. I heard Misha say something about show me the money, and she might go to pro wrestling.
Hey, props to Matt Riddle. He just got signed to the WWE this year. I saw that.
I did see that too. Yeah, so good for him. Yeah, NXT's
5'10".
I didn't read the details.
For China?
I mean, she's
she
wearing
must have
like
some platforms or something, right?
Yeah, she had like boots.
Yeah, but she's like a Tyron Woodley 5'10". You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, she's like Cyborg. She was jacked. She was really, really like strong, you know, and imposing. Ronda is not that Ronda isn't, but wow, maybe. But man, have you seen that Braun Strowman guy and fucking Roman Reigns? I mean, like, I don't know if I saw.
No, it wouldn't be like I wouldn't do it as like a match. Just like remember when we went to WrestleMania, right? And
Hulk Hogan did the
something like that.
Just real quick, and then the next day on Raw, all order is restored. I suppose, but the Divas have been around for a while, and I think they've knocked down barriers and walls. Like that whole thing was doing great even before Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
I don't watch it on every Monday for 3 hours or whatever, but I do keep tabs on some stuff, and that Charlotte Flair is a superstar. And they have, a bunch of other ones that.
When is that all-female card?
Like. Survivors?
Does it have a name, or is it the Survivor?
I don't know. Do you know, Dan, when the all-female pay-per-view was?
I don't know. I just know that they announced it. I believe for this year, though, right? 2018.
Well, I would check something like that out.
Or maybe not. Maybe it was 2019. I don't know. It's because it's weird how they'll build to their things. I don't follow.
They're fun to watch, but they're hard to keep track of. They all kind of look the same to me a little bit.
Speaking of booking and kind of maybe rounding it back to MMA, someone we're doing the top 5 welterweight wars on my podcast. There, my buddy Jordan brought up to me. Do you remember when not only they had less events, but they were actually booking them like you wouldn't know who was on the event until they didn't book it as far out, right? Like maybe about like 10 years, MMA like 10 years ago maybe or so.
Oh yeah.
Like that about that in the booking announcements, even those like you just had faith like, oh, it's going to be a good show because they weren't booking them.
Well, you only cared about the main event really, right? Like that's what sold you, and then along the way you'd go, what? Evan Tanner and Rich Franklin?
And you knew they were going to fill out a good card, but so probably wasn't that big of a deal that they weren't announcing them.
It's October 28th, by the way, the all-female pay-per-view.
Okay,
it's called Evolution, and it's slated to take place at the Nassau Coliseum in Long Island, New York. So
it's pretty
October
historic
28th.
for wrestling. Nassau Coliseum.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, anyway, congrats to Ronda Rousey. She reached the pinnacle of another sport. So that's a bronze medal in judo, a world title in 2 major organizations. She was the Strikeforce Bantamweight champion. She was the UFC Bantamweight champion. And now she's a WWE, I believe, Women's Raw champion. They don't call them heavyweights or nothing like that. You're just the champ, right? So that's that. I wonder what that felt like for her.
I think it would have been more special if it would have taken longer.
Yeah, because that's a sport where it's so much acting's involved that taking a few losses, I don't think would have messed with her psyche like the way MMA crushed her psyche. So I think you could have done that, and then all of a sudden, a year later, 2 years later, I guess you go in. But it just seems like ever since she arrived, it's like, oh my God, she can pick up the world and spin it on her finger.
I mean, look at a girl like Shayna Baszler, one of her friends. Like she went a really long road to get to where she's at. So I think it would mean a lot more to someone like her.
That's what I'm thinking. I don't know. I don't know if you know when you're gonna win it. I don't think you do. But if I knew, I think I would have said I don't think it's time. Has she even been there a whole year yet? No, right?
No, I don't think so.
That's what I'm saying. I would have said, hey Vince, take it easy, baby. I mean,
it probably doesn't translate. It's not like MMA where it translates to more money.
Do you think she's a good performer?
She's better than I thought she would be. I'll say.
Yeah. Okay. If you praise it like that, I also think the same.
But see, I'm an MMA guy.
I still see I
can't stop
others that are way better in terms of how fluid they are in the wrestling that they do. And then on the mic, I thought she was great on the mic in the UFC. She could really get going and know how to stir the pot and poke people and things like that. But here, she hasn't been given that chance. She's Smack Talk 101. I'm sure she'll get better at it, but I think if she thinks too much about it, I think it'll throttle her a little bit. If she would just flow, I think she could do well. But I don't know. They say it's nerve-wracking.
again, you got
the announcers say it's nerve-wracking, and they're just calling it. Imagine performing.
You know, I'm with Goes. That's why I kind of will tune out a little bit that I have seen. Again, I'm not following, and I'm to be honest, I'm not planning on really following her storyline. But from what I've seen, definitely the acting is probably the more rougher part than the physical, which is why, again, treat her like Ken Shamrock, you know, or how they initially had Ken Shamrock's character. You just have her go in and FSU, fuck shit up, you know what I'm saying? Pardon my French, but, you know, attach her with a team or whatever. They had, like, Shamrock with, like, they had, like, Edge, Mankind. They put him with, like, a little team for a second, and then they have them do the heavy lifting while they're talking and holding the promos court, and she just stands there and looks good, you know? Like, there's little ways to get around it, but like you guys said, from what it sounds like, they clearly fast-tracked her to that title, and good for her. You know, it's a good start for what seems like certainly a new career. I don't see her coming back here.
It leads me to believe that there's like a timestamp on her. The fact that they did it.
Ooh,
look at this.
That's a good conspiracy theory. That's a good conspiracy.
Look at that transition. We got to talk about that. That just got published there on MMA Junkie.
Yeah.
Dana White did an interview, and now he says the UFC has a worth of, I'll tell you when we come back. We're going to take our first break. It's MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM Rush 93. We are back. This is live on Monday, August 20th, and vacation was great. So thank you all for all your kind words, and we'll be here for the rest of the year. I think we used them all, or close to it. Stay close. I already said it. We'll be back.
Up, up, down, down, left, right, B-A, start. You told me that code would get rid of them. Yeah, well, they're still here. Okay, but now they know I tried to kill them. Hold on, Mom. Here are George and Goes.
It's fantasy football season, and Fantasy Sports Radio is helping you draft a winning team. Here, the experts analyze NFL training camps and preseason games from the fantasy football perspective. Learn winning strategies and find out which players you need to have on your team. Be the most prepared player at your fantasy football draft with Fantasy Sports Radio, Series 210, XM87, and streaming on your phone or at home with connected devices and speakers. Let's talk to Marco from Waco, Texas, right after I tell you what
you teased
Dana White valued the UFC at.
Yeah.
$7 billion. That's almost double what they sold for. They sold for, I believe, the official number, because I think this happened when I was on vacation, when we were on vacation. I read something where there was some testimony, and I think when they flat out asked for Lorenzo Fertitta the number, I think it was 4.025. So not 4 billion and then another 250 million. It was 4.025 million. So we had heard 4.2, 4 billion, whatever. So double that would be 8.050, right? So they're about 75% of the way there, if what he's saying is true. But for one, very impressive number. They don't seem to be hurting. And how does Lorenzo and Frank Fertitta feel? Like, could they have taken it to that level, or you know, like, are they like, holy shit, we just lost out on another $3 billion, or once you're a billionaire, do you even care? I mean,
I would hope they don't care, but is it me being a cynic, guys? But when I first think of that, like, and I'm not trying to get political here by any means, but I'm like, is this like some kind of like Trump headline here? It's like Trump talk where I'm gonna kind of, maybe our value did go up, but maybe it didn't go up that high. Like, is there a way that it could, you know, or is there, you know, with the ESPN deal, was there kind of some kind of refinancing as far as their WME bill, the thing we keep, or whatever they call themselves now, the thing we keep referring to, the bill that the UFC has to pay. You know, when you change houses, you refinance your mortgage, so to speak. Well, they kind of got a new house, right? We went from Fox to ESPN. In a sense, they refinanced their mortgages. Does that $7 billion, if that's true, does that carry over to their bill as far as at least weighing down their interest? Maybe they still owe their big chunk, of course, but you know what I'm saying? Like, is there motivations behind why he would be, you know, be pumping that out? That's a huge statement right there.
It is a big.
And I haven't read that. I haven't read it yet. So
he says, we just did a TV deal with ESPN for $1.5 billion for 5 years. Now the company is worth $7 billion. So he keeps it very simple. And he says, when you think about it, we haven't even scratched the surface of how big this thing can be.
I don't know about that. They've definitely scratched the surface. I don't know that it can get that much bigger.
Well, it's tough to say. I still think there's going to be more superstars that show up. And we know there's at least one more Conor fight. But, by the way, guys, what do you think happens with Conor if he loses? Does he still keep fighting?
Nate. Yeah. He has an 8 fight, and then I think he calls it quits.
Yep.
Does he have the featherweight card to play?
No.
Just because it's too hard to cut?
Yeah, I think that's. I think he's got 2 more fights in him.
And then there's a return of Brock Lesnar. So think about what they have to look forward to. The end of the year, a few champions that we already know are going to be defending. They have Brock returning and Conor returning. So that's solid. And then 2019 starts on ESPN, and if that thing blows up there, maybe they could reach their $8 billion or $8.050 billion, thereby doubling the value of what they sold it for. But as far as I've heard that too, you know, that they obviously need to pay back on some of those investments. There's interest to pay, but I think they're fine. I've always thought they're fine. I wonder if the fighters are going to read this and go, oh yeah, well, didn't Luke Rockhold just say, if you want me to go to light heavyweight, you're going to have to get sexy with me, or you're going to have to give me a sexy contract. I think he's probably the only guy that can get away with talking that way, but And will they care if they're worth that much money? Do they mind paying more? You know, you see that gate, UFC 229, $2,500 tickets, all of them gone. 200, 250, you name it, they're all gone. And they have these VIP deals you can do. for like $32.50 or whatever. You get to have a little bit of their buffet and free drinks, mingle with some fighters, take some pics. But that's $32.50. Oh, I guess that it maybe includes your seat. I don't know, but
I'm just glad somebody's moving numbers, man. Because it feels like I'm constantly disappointed whenever like the buys come out, and hopefully that translates to buys. I know we're talking about ticket sales, which is great, and gates. But yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping it translates to buys because with this ESPN thing, like, okay, I get that, maybe the $7 billion alone, the 1.5 with the TV deal, that already says that ESPN is an institution, right? That's what we kind of want. We want any sport that's on ESPN, it's there. Like, unless something crazy happens, we're not going to wake up tomorrow and football and baseball and basketball are going to be gone, or in bankrupt and in legal turmoil or financial trouble. Like, that's not going to happen, right? Knock on wood. And we want MMA to be there, just like that was so monumental about getting MMA on Fox. It was a step closer to being in mainstream. But what's the trade-off? Now that it's there, does it become one of those things where if you know it's always on the shelf, by human nature, you care less about it, right? If you go to the grocery store and go, now that this item is finally not a specialty item, it got enough traction to now, Albertsons carries it, this place carries it, it's almost not worth as much because you always know it's going to be on the shelf. And I think the downtrending numbers reflect that, right? And So my question is like, okay, maybe it's true. Maybe the sport has raised. Maybe the $7 billion is attached to the UFC. But if the numbers keep going down, is that just something we got to expect? Is that the trade-off here going forward? If we want to be an institutional sport, we're just there. We have to deal with those numbers.
I think what we don't know, what's behind the curtain, is overseas, how big it's growing. And how big it could get, and what it does for them. We always hear about those TV deals in Russia, the TV deals in Mexico, the TV deals in Brazil. Well, if you have all these different TV deals everywhere, in addition to pay-per-view, in addition to Fight Pass, in addition to the new deal with ESPN, and Reebok will be up in about 2-3 years. It could probably add up to all that. And every fighter that they own under contract's like an asset, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As long as they can get them to fight. But, the fighters have woken up and they're speaking up for themselves a little bit more. But I'm telling you, they have crack cocaine to sell, man.
I still think there's a monster out there that's waiting to come down.
CTE?
TBI. Yeah. I think that's going to come down on them very hard. Look what it did to the NFL. Have you watched the game, a preseason this year?
Yeah.
What the hell's going on? Guys are just normal tackles. They're getting flags.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't like that.
Can't do that to MMA. You water it down like that, it stops being MMA. Like, that's still football. It's just a little bit more tight on some of the rules. It's still football. You could still watch it and enjoy it. MMA, if you start coming down like that, it's not as fun.
Well, I think what hurt the NFL is they didn't reveal it. So I think if the UFC gets ahead of it and says, look, this is a violent sport, things can happen, them creating that PI and getting athletes funneled through there so that they can clear them. And
if they're NFL players that made millions of dollars, that at least you say, well, they went back to their mansions and they did this and that. These are guys that aren't making very much money, and they're still going through the same shit. I think it's going to come down hard.
Well, even if we're not waiting for the hard hammer to come down, this brings up an interesting point. What about the small stuff that's done, the unspoken things? For example, when UFC first went to Fox, wasn't there reports of they were spray painting blood, spray painting the mats between canvas? How is ESPN going to treat this? Are they going to take certain precautions at first? Are they going to just implement them right off the bat and keep them there? As far as that stuff goes, I mean, we've already seen just UFC production in general, kind of move away from the shots when the guy's been really badly knocked out. Or they'll skip sometimes they'll skip the post-fight interview altogether, depending if it's on the prelims. They can just skip it, they tend to the guy there. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they handle those things if they tighten the screws up in that sense, try not to show less, or just being open with the sport that we all kind of know what it is.
Also, though, to go with what we're saying, they also now have 25 years of equity under their belt. This is 25-year anniversary. No major deaths. Wait, let me phrase that right. There have been deaths. Of course, every death is a major death, especially to those close to the person that's passed. But, okay, no deaths in the UFC, no serious injury, and by that I mean like a paralysis in the UFC. So, can we now say, wow, it is violent, but there is also a level of safety that we don't see in some of these other sports we just named, football being one, boxing being another, where there are deaths. I know that when I was in California, I read about at least 2 kids. One was high school level and one was college level who had passed away just from dehydration.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Isn't their stat like five a year or something like that? It's pretty high up there.
Yeah.
Boxing's
and
they're
they're trying to get ahead of it, but, you know, it's a really, really physical sport, man.
Yeah, no. I was thinking about that. I think I was watching a referee stoppage the other day, and it was.
Oh, there was a late one the other day.
Yeah, and this was I forget. This was this one
guy.
guy
got kicked in the face. What am I thinking of?
Bellator?
Gallagher?
Yeah,
Gallagher. Well, I mean, he took some vicious shots, and I guess he was still a punching dummy or a zombie, but you could tell he was out. And I thought, you know, I feel like I have one of the longer thresholds. And I was like, you may want to stop this. I was starting to get sarcastic with it before I get to stop it. You know, I've yelled that before. But I also sit here on the show and say refs getting better. Refs are getting better. I feel like a lot of them are. And I don't remember who refed that one, but they do have the best vantage point.
Well, it's one of those things where I think it's important, like you said, it's important to just kind of remind yourself that not so much, they are getting better, hopefully, right? We all want them to get better, but just how important their job is. I think it was James Vick versus Todd Duffy I was watching. That was ref by Todd Anderson, who gets a lot of flack.
James Vick versus Todd Duffy?
Not Todd, Joe Duffy. This was the Madison Square Garden show, I think 217 last year.
Yeah.
And I think, not Todd Harris, he doesn't think... Todd Anderson, he refed it. He did the Duran Duranemy home. He got a lot of flack for that one. That's where he's kind of most notable.
Is that when she was late?
Yeah. He's the late guy to step in on stop those. But in this one, Duffy gets smashed, and it looked like on an early stoppage because Duffy gets back up. He doesn't contest it, so it was a good stoppage. But it looked like, could he have let it go on any longer? And not only that, whereas could he have let it go on any longer? Todd Anderson stops it almost like the guy had been flatlined for like 10 seconds, and he got there like too late. Like, please stop! Like, it was almost like no, and almost like my first instinct was like, oh, look at this guy over here, like being all overly reactive. But then I immediately was like, no, that's a dumb thought, Dan. Like, how important? Like, that's what you want to see. You want to see a guy treating everything like life or death, even if it's even if it doesn't necessarily look like that's the situation. You want that in a referee because you just think about the weight that these guys are carrying for what you guys are talking about. You know, they're not getting credit like we always talk about. It's the most thankless job, but they're also really carrying a huge weight of our sport's success if they don't do their job correctly in there, and what it could do to all the organizations with just one really bad stoppage. You know what I'm saying? So, I think it's kind of healthy for us to kind of remind ourselves when we go to criticize a ref or anything like that.
Gallagher took a hook, then he got some sweet chin music, and then he still got lit up after that.
Yeah, that was a rough ball. Wow, that was
man.
Yeah.
Talk to Marco in Waco, Texas. What's up, Marco? How you doing?
Marco from Waco. Welcome back, Battles.
Hey, Marco.
Gracias.
I miss talking to you guys, man. I was like in an island talking to all the shows, feeling guilty.
How you been?
Yeah,
as long as you use protection, Marco.
You going to Dallas, by the
way? I celebrated my 47th birthday last Friday, so
happy belated birthday. And are you going to Dallas? The Dallas show?
No. The kids do it. It's like a pain in the ass to get babysitters for the 2-year-old and the 8-year-old now. It sucks. I wanted to, but I couldn't hook it up with the mother-in-law. She got other stuff to do. It's okay.
Okay.
Hey, real quick on Ronda, I was actually happy for her. I think they're banking on the image, when she used to smoke women super fast on the UFC, so you got to set her like this unstoppable force or whatever. And we got a Travis Brown side in there. He was on the crowd. He's looking huge, man. I wonder if they're going to put him on the roster with his wife, too.
Is huge polite for fat, or huge as in bulky, like muscle?
No, bulky, like he probably put 20 pounds of muscle, man.
Wow.
He's not walking around fighting. Yeah, he looked massive. Like his back looked like he could pack 3, I don't know. Humongous.
Mm-hmm. And, he's got the look for it, right? I wouldn't doubt it if they brought him in.
He's about 6'7". Yeah.
Totally.
He's got some tats going on.
Gave her a big hug, and, I mean, you saw how quick they were to bring in the other 3 girls, right? So I think they would work with her on it.
Yeah, and what's his UFC status? Is he still with the UFC?
Travis?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Okay, go ahead, Marco.
One last thing, man, and this number that Dana gave, $7 billion, I kept thinking, okay, doesn't Dana own like 9 or 10% of the company too still? So his equity, his net worth just went up $300 million, man. I mean, he's vested on that number. And I just me thinking, on interest alone, on $700 million, he's making $42 million a year. That is freaking ridiculous kind of money. That's why he can freaking buy his son a $1 million birthday party, and we have to just look and wonder. Peace out, huh?
All right, we'll see it. All right, a couple things that Marco touched on. Actually, let's take this break. I think we owe Danny one more. Danny, one more, right?
Yeah.
All right, it's
one more.
Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back.
They were kicked off the set of The Fast and the Furious for being too loud and too good-looking. Once again, here's Gorgeous George and Goes.
The kickoff to college football season is fast approaching, and no one knows your favorite school like the experts on Sirius XM's college conference channels. From the Heisman hopefuls to the make-or-break Week 1 games, our analysts are getting you ready for the start of the season. Hear it all on Sirius XM ACC Radio Channel 371, Sirius XM Pac-12 Radio Channel 373, Sirius XM SEC Radio Channel 374, and streaming on your phone or at home on Sirius connected devices and speakers. All right. Ronda Rousey. Marco was of the opinion that WWE wants to treat her like the way she was in the UFC, where she was just taking names, holding hostages, smoking everybody in less than a minute.
Like Tyson.
Right. And so maybe that's what they want to apply to her, because she did become a superstar, and it helped the UFC tremendously at the box office. It helped her career out. And let's face it, the WWE can control the ending. So they really, really could do that if that's what the plan was. Do you like that?
No, I don't. I think it works early on but then what do you do? Like,
is it disrespectful to the other divas?
Maybe a little bit, but I feel like
I
feel like maybe she's peaked. Like, where does she go from here?
That's what I feel like. Well, that's a good point, but
unless she's like Goldberg,
I'm
right?
just wondering, like, what the other one. I mean, they have quite a few years under their belt, and they've really built that thing up. I think even if Ronda didn't come along to the sport, they were ready for an all-female pay-per-view.
But they probably knew it was coming, right?
See, that's the thing. I feel like I come up short on even weighing in on this because I don't know how far along they were already, you know, because I see these, like, females that were already there from the divas, which I guess is what they call them, right? But even, like, hell, I mean, I know from whether it's the MMA through that world or even, like, met a random girl who just, you know, says she travels for WWE, and then they're you know, not the WWE, but, you know, just regional wrestling circuits, and so you're just seeing more women in all entry levels of it. This all can't just because of, you know, we can't give Ronda that same credit we gave in MMA, right? Like, oh, look at all the women that came over because of Ronda. I don't think we can say that with the W, right? Because they're already established there. I mean, we already mentioned some classic ones like China going back, as far as crossing over wrestling, being a physical force, breaking images.
We went through the whole Fabulous Moolah, didn't we, for 29 years, and then Wendy Richter through Cyndi Lauper, and then there was the Valets. I thought the Valets kind of were over as well, but then you get to finally China and her run. And
I think she did
Tori
a lot.
Wilson.
I'm with Goza's conspiracy theory now more you guys talk about it. I think Goza's conspiracy theory makes sense.
Right? Like, what else is she going to do?
Well, that was what you thought. What you said was not crazy. Could she go out there and get a pin and do that? Yeah, I suppose. But that's why I'm thinking: is she going to get out of this in 2 years, 3 years, and the WWE's just going to squeeze the juice as much as they can? All right, I looked at a comprehensive list of the fighters that are out there in the UFC. Don't hold me to this; it's not like a Bible, but it seems pretty accurate and updated. I got to give credit to the gentleman that does it. I catch it over on Bloody Elbow, a guy named Zane Simon. He keeps an eye on the roster. And this is updated as of August 11th. But
shouts to Zane. This is a good job.
Travis Brown is still there, listed as a UFC heavyweight. And he will list who the recent cuts are and who the recent additions are. So, again, is this the Bible or, you know, I don't know. But could Travis Brown also get permission to do a one-off? Sure, I'm sure he could. Even if he was under contract. If you hit Travis Brown and Google him, you'll see some interviews that he's done where he's open to it, but it didn't sound like that's what he wants to do. He says, I'll never say no to the possibility going out there and wrestling. I love to go out there and work with my wife. That would be so much fun. Of course, if he's under contract, can he really go out there and say anything more definitive than that? Probably not. But I think MMA is his thing, and I mean, can he get the benefits that she does? I mean, a lot of those performers, the reason a lot of these wrestlers, one of the things they hate the most is just being on the road so much. So does he want that? Who knows? He's also a father. He's got his kids that he's had from prior relationships, and I'm sure him and Ronda want to have kids. So I don't know, man. I'd see him maybe in a one-off position, but that's about it. All right, that's 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. It's the MMA Junkie Radio Show on the new Fight Nation, Channel 93, and we'll be right back.
long time. We've been waiting for a long time. We ain't gonna wait no more. We're getting ready to rock and roll. We're gonna 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Well, there's a reason everybody should be shaking in the house tonight. And you should wear your favorite lady and promise her you do it right. Nail back, jack, jump back, give you a shot of some booze. So you can party to some soft down, butt bump and rock and roll rhythm and blues. But the boys are back in town. The boys are back in town.
All right, here we go. Second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. Glad to be back after 10 days of vacation. Joined by Goes and Dan Tom, both in studio. Danny Okersby, he's back east producing. And we got UFC Fight Night 135 ahead of us on Saturday, headlined by Justin Gaethje and James Vick. And this past weekend we had a Bellator card. I think it was 205, guys. Do you know?
PFL too.
Yeah. So we can talk a little bit about Darian Caldwell, who I really think is one of the best 35ers out there.
Mm-hmm.
He won at 45, but you know, I did have to do a little small write-up for our rankings chatter that we have. And I mean, what a 1-2 punch down in the Alliance. They got the Bellator champion Caldwell, and they got Dominic Cruz, who some say is the best bantamweight ever. I'm sure TJ Dillashaw would disagree, but they got a good thing going on there. Both guys definitely making each other better. And by the way, Dominic Cruz says he's ready to go. Says he's cleared and he wants the Dillashaw fight, which can be something else we can talk about as well here in the second hour.
He didn't say it as nicely as you did.
Because he's a pussy? He told John Morgan, right? wait, what did he say? Why doesn't he want to fight you?
John asked him why TJ doesn't ask for that fight or something like that, and he said because he's a pussy.
Yeah. All right, let's talk to Vegas Ford. He's on the hotline. If you want to follow Ford, it's 866-522-2846. What's up, Ford?
Hey, gentlemen. Welcome back. How are you?
Good, thank you.
You're very welcome. Hey, first, I guess there's some medicine that I have to take. I was supposed to do it a long time ago. I made a prediction about Cyborg's last fight being the worst selling pay-per-view ever, and I was wrong. So, George Gonzalez, I'm wrong. You can leave me alone now. Now, for you guys, gun to the head, Kabum or Connor?
Gun to the head? Give me Habib.
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
As somebody who picked Michael Johnson to beat Khabib at UFC 205, my gun to the head will be Connor for right now.
Really?
Yeah. Really on what? That I'm picking Connor that I picked.
Birthday. That's the last one you want to celebrate? I mean, you know, because
really?
I've caught a lot of shows while I was gone, just as I was driving. I got it on the Fight Nation channel quite often. So I'd hear a lot of these discussions. One thing I don't want you guys to forget, and some fighters have proven us wrong, but most of us haven't, it's still a long layoff from MMA for that dude, for Conor McGregor. Is he one of the sport's greatest ever? Yeah, he is. But still, man, almost 2 years, 23 months by the time he gets in there and fights with Habib. We can count the boxing match, but, you know, that's different muscle memory. That's different muscles. Those are different workouts. And even that was over a year ago by the time he gets in. So that's something I think you have to factor in, you know, aside from his deficiencies on the ground.
That's our gun to head answer, though, but I don't think you feel like it's a landslide either, right? Like, I would give him
I'm seeing more
5%, maybe?
I'm seeing more Connors than I
25%?
I suspected I would.
Okay, look, anybody that says Connor, I'll let Ford say it, because I know Ford wants Connor to win. So how does Connor beat Habib, Ford?
Power, fucking precision, accuracy in the left hand.
Okay.
Simple as that.
Right. But see, that's the thing. A lot of people say it like you do. If he touches him, he's going down. Rewatch the Eddie Alvarez fight. He knocked him down like 3-4 times, and a couple of those times Eddie still got back before he was really hurt. And a couple times he hit Eddie, and Eddie took the punch. It's not like ball bull where if you don't throw that jab or whatever the defense is, that's it. You're going to sleep. he has power. A lot of guys have power, but you know, I still think there's a lot more to it. Like if he had, I remember the Conor of old who threw a lot more kicks. You know what I mean? To set up a few more
not gonna throw those.
Of his punches. Lately, he just fell in love with the power in his hand, and he has it, man. Don't get me wrong; it's not like he doesn't. But I just feel like there's a lot of openings there for Khabib to get the takedown, as long as Khabib doesn't have too big of an ego and think he can stand with him. You know, if he stands with him ridiculously, because Khabib's offense his striking can be so sloppy with where he places his hands that he could get hurt. But if he just commits to the takedown, kind of like what you see Chael Sonnen do, oh my God, I just think it's going to be a bloodbath.
See, that's the thing. That's what is dangerous about Khabib is that he has messed with striking more than he probably should have.
Right.
In his last 3 matchups, less with Michael Johnson, but he did there, and he got tagged really bad by Michael Johnson. I'd say the worst.
Yeah.
He stood more than he should have with Edson
Johnson's
Barboza.
got a lot of speed though too.
Yeah, speed though too, and so does Barbosa. But he stood with him longer than he, and even his team. Javier Mendez even admitted that they would like them to. You can hear them in the corner shouting against it. He's going against them, and he's admitting that he's going against it after the fight in his post-fight. He said, "Yeah, I wanted to stand with him longer." His team's admitting that he went against the game plan 3 times in a row. That is very dangerous when you're going against a guy like Conor, who, like Ford said, it's kind of obvious with the thing that he does offer there as far as the counter left hand. And I will say that even
his lead straight is amazing. He'll just pop you. He sees an opening and he pops.
Yeah, he doesn't have the right hook like Michael Johnson has, the check right hook, which, you know, I mean, I'm not saying that he doesn't have it. He just hasn't shown it. It's usually more of a setup hand. But the thing I will say about the layoff, though, because George brought that up, and that's so true, but one thing I want to bring up about layoffs is, if I were to tell you one factor that you have your classic factors, okay, how many knockouts does this guy have? How many times has he been knocked out? What's his layoff? We have our kind of like my breakdown. So we have like our staple information, right? The most misleading staple information, the most misleading statistic, the most misleading wives' tale gambling trend that we always talk about on these shows, layoffs, man. These past couple of years, and I'm talking about from outliers like George St. Pierre. And Dominic Cruz, to even like these no-name guys that they're using just to fill space on these regional shows that you don't see them because they only pull them when they go to Eastern Europe or to South America, and these guys that don't have a lot of training resources and they've been out for over a year. Oh, this guy, who is this? This is just this card filler. And I made the mistake just breaking these fights down and picking against these guys. Oh, well, this guy's not going to look as good, even if it's a close fight or what should be a landslide. I'm writing these guys off over and over again because of the stats we've talked about on the show. 75% of people coming over 11-month, whatever. Throw all that out the window. What I've been seeing in the past 2 years have been going against that. I don't know if it's because what we're talking about, the things outside of the cage have evolved.
Don't fight as much for sure.
But yeah, man, it's not as much of a thing anymore as far as that layoff margin. I know what you're talking about. I agree. It's something I always look for, but I'm having to remind myself to not put as much weight into that because I'll tell you, fighters have been proving that wrong all across the board. I don't know what it is.
What percentage do you have it at?
That I think Conor can win?
Yeah.
5.
5?
Yeah.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
God damn. I got it 75.
I think he's got to survive a couple takedowns. Get through a round, and that means at least 4 times that he's standing across from Khabib. He possesses one-punch power and nice combos. Like Ford said, he said the word precision. He's right. Conor is very precise with his strikes. Like, not many are just wasted. In the Nate fight, the first one, there was too much of it because I think he bought into, I'm going to light this guy up, and it's just a matter of time. And so he didn't measure his output right. In the second one, he did. You could tell he pulled back when he needed to. But in this fight, I don't think you can just stand there as a lefty and just completely throw and put everything you have into every single strike because of the fear of the takedown. That's something that Nate didn't bring, you know. Nate's got world-class jiu-jitsu, but you either have to get through a scramble or something against the cage, like maybe a trip, pull guard. I don't know, but he's not actually shooting in for a double. And with Khabib, if he wants to turn it on and just do that from the very beginning, oh, man, I'm telling you, Conor has to limit it. He has to limit. If he's going to get taken down with 90 seconds left. There's about a minute of survival, and you know, you doing whatever it takes to get up, but you do not want to get taken down within the first minute. That's a long time to survive. Yeah. And I've heard it from a lot of fighters. So, like, that's why I only give him 5.
I'm more along the lines it goes. I would say 70-30, but by that admission, I probably would.
You think Conor?
I probably gun to the head. I probably should say Khabib. I don't have an official pick yet, but gun to the head. I probably should retract that if I do think that Khabib is the deserved favorite. That I do think 70% of the time that Khabib wins, maybe 30% Conor. But here's the thing too. It's not just
that was a quick flip.
Well, no, I'm just saying, but if someone's listening, like, well, why did gun to the head Conor if you're admitting that Khabib's the favorite? Which is true. I do admit that Khabib's a favorite.
Well, with gun to the head, though, don't worry about favorite, the plus or the minus.
Yeah.
The fight's about to start, and
again,
some criminal comes up to you and goes, hey, I'm going to pull the trigger if you don't get this right. What word comes out of your mouth?
I still
want to live, right?
I still would have said Conor. I guess I'm trying not to be too specific, not because I want to pin myself to something, but because my article, still has a ways to before it even comes out. So I don't want to tip my hands too much. But I've thought about this a lot, and Khabib's a guy who I've studied a ridiculous amount. I love his game, but I've also been somebody, and that's why I wanted him to face Ferguson. Ferguson offered more holes, I believe, than Conor does. I believe, but I said this. But I said this from the beginning. I said Ferguson is a much harder matchup for McGregor than Khabib is. I also said Khabib is the easier matchup. There's more of a clear path there for him. Whereas Ferguson, you're not going to hurt or out cardio, or you might be able to outstrike him technically, but there's just so much offered.
You think Ferguson's easier for Conor?
Harder match for Conor.
No, I think he's easier.
I could see that. I think most people would be with you if you did a poll. I think most people would be on your side.
Tony and
but again, this is the reason why I said Conor gun to my head against Khabib is because, and the reason why I picked Michael Johnson against Khabib, and even though the pick was wrong, what I said was not crazy. What I said happened. Khabib's striking was very stiff. It's only made improvements from in the last fight, his Ally Quinta fight, which even then I have to be careful to say that, because then there's a lot of people who went the opposite, because I know Rogan got heat for kind of chastising, but I felt, even though Rogan may have done that, I felt that everybody else did the opposite of Rogan, and they went too much the other way with that. Look how much evolved he is. Look, he could just strike, and he could just toy with Ally Quinta if he wanted to, and again, Ally Quinta was coming off, we just talked about layoffs, granted, but he was coming off a layoff. Granted, he had a camp. He wasn't prepared for that match. You know what I'm saying? And what did Khabib do? He still struck with a guy who, what was his best chance of winning? Striking with him. Right? So, you just look at these things and you're like, okay, you're overinflated maybe skills here. And what also is, people might get mad at me, overinflated is his takedown ability. Khabib's takedowns he's not hitting reactive double legs. He's not hitting Daniel Cormier or Stipe Miocic snatch singles. Can he? Has he? Yes, off of the third or fourth chain.
He's open on the way in.
But it's usually a very sloppy shot, and he just uses that one underhook, and then once he gets the underhook, he's not even going for your legs to take you down. The reason why he's so hittable is because he's coming in about chest level. He's trying to get that underhook, and then he's driving his guy. Then he gets low after he gets the underhook, but he drives the guy to the cage. Then once he gets to the cage, you have chains, and if you can defend those chains, which remember Michael Johnson was able to defend some after he got taken down and beat up. Edson Barbosa was able to defend some. And we all remember, he was beating Barbosa so bad. Look at the 1,000. But if you look at that third round, Barbosa actually made a good account for himself. He actually defends 2 takedowns, solid takedowns to start the round. And I dare say Conor may have as good takedown defense as a Barbosa. And I will say that I think Conor has better takedown defense than Michael Johnson, which sounds crazy because Michael Johnson, he's athletic and all this stuff, which is true.
Where do you get that from? The Alvarez?
Well, yeah, I just was recently. Alvarez's fight, and then also just looking at Michael Johnson's last fight, which I watched yesterday against.
I'm talking about Conor.
Elkins, but
where do you like his takedown defense improvement?
Against
he did have some
against the cage against Alvarez. Alvarez makes money off the cage.
Against Mendez, he got taken down easily. But then again, there was rumors that he was hurt. So who knows?
The knee.
Okay, I got a question for Ford, whose call is dragging on. By the way, this guy just won't stop. Ford, I know you love your kids. Farah, what's the boy's name again? I always forget. Brock. Okay.
Brock.
You're sitting next to this crazy man, and he puts a gun to your head. When you left home, you got a ticket, all right? Somehow you scored a ticket, and when you left home, you rubbed Brock on the head and you said, all right, boy, I'll be back. And you told Farrah, keep an eye, and, you said, I'll be home after the fights. When you get to the fights, somebody pulls a hood over your head and drives you somewhere else, and he's just some maniac. He just comes up with shit like that. Think Dennis Hopper in Speed. He's just crazy. And then he puts the gun to your head and says, do you want to see Brock and Farrah again? Well, this main event's about to start. Tell me who wins, you go home. If you get it wrong, you lose. Don't fucking lie, Ford. Tell the truth.
Conor. All day long, Conor.
Bullshit.
Bullshit, nothing.
Bullshit. There's no way. I'm telling you, man.
Come on.
Now I'm picturing Ford fighting Dennis Hopper on top of the train over this answer. Hopefully he does better than Keanu Reeves, because again, Dennis Hopper, another one of those old guys with ridiculous strength in the movie. Like, how is he holding up with the lead? You know, kind of like Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible. Another top of the train fight scene. How are these old guys so strong when they get to the top of moving trains? Sorry.
There's one thing in that breakdown that I hold very valuable that I didn't hear, and it's just the mental warfare. Connor's not going to play that game. Or, I mean, Khabib's not going to play that game. I think Tony Ferguson would get caught up in that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's Connor's
true. That's
one
thing. Yeah, that's true.
Is getting people riled up, frazzled, and it's just not going to work on Khabib. And I think when it doesn't work, it's when it frazzles Connor.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see. Luckily, this fight's less than 2 months away. Knock on wood, we get there, because this fight card cannot, I'm sorry to say it, but it cannot sustain something happening to the main event. It's not deep. I went over this with my man Sean Lennon from the Fight League Report yesterday. I was a guest on his show, and yeah, we got some Derek Lewis and Volkov and a few other fights, you know, on the card that are decent. But I'm telling you, the UFC would have been better served to have Dustin Poirier versus Nate Diaz on this card, and the reason is because if, God forbid, something happened to Khabib, Connor and Nate, and you tell Poirier, here's some money, we'll see you in a couple months, kid, but these two got to settle the trilogy, and it still fights. Everyone's happy. The people that paid $2,500 or whatever, the people at home that are going to pay for this pay-per-view, because you're getting Nate versus Connor Part 3. And if something happens to the other party, which is McGregor, you go, Poirier, you deserved it anyway. Nate, step aside. Poirier, here's some money, and Poirier, you go in there. And the UFC could write those checks to those guys even without fighting, because this thing's sold out. It's going to be a huge at the gate. And it's going to sell a ton of pay-per-views. But I love that insurance policy for these fans. And it sounded like Nate wanted to be a part of that. I mean, I don't want to say, oh, it's only 20-some days or almost 30 days later, but I think you still have enough time right now to make a call to both guys and go, hey, man, we fucked up. We need you on this one. New York, we'll stack you up, proper. But let's get Poirier and Nate Diaz on this card, because otherwise they're going to have a problem with. Maybe I'm jinxing it just talking about it, but I'm telling you, we've been down this road so many times. Mike Bond can pull stats out of his ass that show that I'm right, man.
I'm with you, and I was to say two things. One, I hope the MMA gods don't know we're back from vacation, because I had to imagine what George said just tickled the crap out of their ears. But no, I'm with you on that. And the second thing is, I guess I was going to say was, this all kind of comes back to our conversation we had not last week, the week before, the last week we were all here. I just bring the question. We all had a number of how many one pay-per-view per month is the model. How many stars do we need to keep the UFC healthy? And I think a lot of these arguments come back to that argument that why can't we have Dustin? Why can't we have these obvious, what I think is obvious insurance policies? But then you look, they're constantly having to play the game. Oh, we got to spread our soldiers here, and unfortunately, that means spreading storylines and spreading.
The Blades are going to Shanghai. Yay!
I know I can't have them there.
What's like 5 a.m. for me? Yeah. Shanghai, they don't give a fuck. Just write UFC and throw 24 fighters at them. They'll be happy.
Feels like
that should be like on Vegas or somewhere else.
The reason they can't do what you want is because there's not enough security in Las Vegas to keep Connor, Khabib, and Nate at bay, and
209 Russians and Ireland.
By the way, really racial.
There'll be more fights in the back than there will be in the cage that night.
That Shanghai or that China booking kind of rub you the wrong way. Racially, it's like, because it's like, I think racially it crosses two things for me, where I think like, okay, what is this? Oh, the black on black crime thing again. Oh, great, because there's there's that angle which some African American athletes take homage to, right? And then you have the angle. It's like, oh, well, we need a card for Japan. We don't have any stars. We're just or China, like they're mixing China with Japan. We're like, well, they're Godzilla. They're like big dudes going at it. Let's just throw big, let's just throw two big black guys over there. Like that's what it felt like. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna come out and say it. That's what it felt like. Sorry, really racially charged booking there.
All right, Ford. Did you have fun co-hosting that segment with us?
Yeah, I did. I got one more thing for you guys, though, and maybe you can take it after the break or something. But I wanted to know how real the rumors are of DC and Jones are at MSG in November. And I'll take it after you guys have a good one.
Hold on a second. Did you hear that rumor as a heavyweight bout or a light heavyweight bout?
Heavyweight.
Heavyweight. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks for the call.
Yep.
All right. So that's news to me.
I keep hearing.
I've just heard that he could be on that card, but I didn't know it was matched up against DC. Honestly, guys, I really thought DC just said, "Look, I fucking put my work in. Just give me the Lesnar fight and let me get the fuck out." I don't think he had any interest in defending 205, even though he says it. And the reason I can say that comfortably, even though we know DC well, because DC on this show has told us one thing, and like, 8 hours later, another thing's happening.
Yeah.
You know, so I know that he knows that in the end, only he knows the truth, and so he can provide a little bit of mystery on the different shows that he does or the different tweets that he does. But I'll answer that question right now, Ford. I haven't heard of that rumor, so by that I mean DC versus Jones at heavyweight in New York. But I have heard Jones at UFC 230, which is the New York card, and I have heard that DC would fight Jones if there was enough time between that and the Lesnar fight, but at light heavyweight. So again, what he said, I hadn't heard all those. I didn't hit all those check marks. How about you?
I heard exactly what you just said, but that rumor I think has just been spread more among social media and stuff. I don't know if it's that credible.
What is taking so long for us to just find out from USADA and John Jones? You know, that whole
suspect.
It just, what takes so fucking long? USADA's saying you tested for this. Jones is saying nope, it was contaminated. How many experts do you need to do some retesting or to ask some questions? For someone to arbitrate, for someone to mediate, I don't know.
I wish I had the answer.
And then just go, nah. Because you know what? Even if they go, which it's not going to look good, but even if they go, it is our belief he didn't intend to cheat and we're only going to do this, he's back, yay. You know, there's going to be a lot of hardcores that are like, you saw they're bought by the UFC. And yeah. Say what you got to say. All I want to know is when the fucking fights are going to start happening again, or if you're going to penalize them, and that's that. But that process takes too long, man. And I reached out to the UFC about getting Jeff Nowitzki on the show, and he's open to it. Now we just got to make it happen. They ran into our vacation, but I really want to ask him these questions. What takes so long?
Yeah, and I think the big thing, I'll steal a line from Goes. He usually uses it toward refereeing or calls, but consistency. I think that would be a big thing to solve it, whether you agree with it or not. I think if it was at least consistent, that would be better, because off the top of my head, I don't have anything in front of me, obviously, but let's think of guys who challenged their USADA statements, fought it, and whether they failed or they were to prove something, how long did that take? And I don't know if all of them even took nearly this long, right?
That's what makes people freak out.
Or nearly this complicated.
That's why people make those comments, because of that.
Yeah.
Some of them got absolved, and you cannot call them a cheater like a Junior Dos Santos, but for 1 year, he didn't get to fight. 1 year. Like, your fighting career is what? The most, I think, a good average for a solid fighter, and that's what Junior Dos Santos is an exceptional fighter, is probably 10 years. And of those 10, the latter half and the early half, you're still, hey, that Junior Dos Santos guy isn't bad until you finally get to the fight that puts you over. And then towards the end, you're cashing a few checks. So maybe even those 10 years can be watered down into, like, or not watered down, but they can be shrink down to 5 years of, like, your best possible athleticism, And did they just take one from him? I don't know, man. Look at this card real fast. And by the way, this whole jinx talk, I'm kind of getting tired of it.
I have something that will make you not get tired of it.
Uh-oh.
What is it?
Guess who bet on Manchester United this weekend?
How?
Yeah.
Anyway,
the Manchester Mush.
But then wouldn't Hal have to lose every single game for that to be true?
He's mushed 2 Super Bowls. I mean, he bet on Demetrius Johnson.
What?
Well, who didn't?
I'm just saying.
I actually had Cejudo, but most of the world bet on Demetrius Johnson. But because let me tell you something. The other day I was at Big Ralph's, and we're watching. Oh, man, this is painful to say. This is what my life sunk to on some days. We're watching the Little League World Series. Ralph's got an 80-inch TV.
Why are people clowning on that so much?
Jackpot.
I don't know. He has an 80-inch TV, and then he's got like some 40s. There's a top right, bottom right, top left, bottom left. Those are 40-inch TVs, and so those are good too. So when something's happening, it's like, oh man, look at the fight on the top right, and then here we wind, we watch, then we catch up. The middle always has the volume for the most part, and he can move them around however he wants. But I think it was the day of Bellator. Bellator had ended, and we were just left with baseball, the West Coast games, and somehow this dumb fucking game between Georgia and Hawaii, I think. Who cares? Like, I mean, just tell me when the final is, And yeah, I'll probably sit there and watch it, eat some popcorn, maybe bet on it if they'll allow me. I don't know. But I really don't care about these regionals and these semifinals and quarterfinals.
Humidity won't be a
stage.
factor in this game with Georgia versus Hawaii.
So get this, guys. It's like the 5th inning, and all I noticed was that neither team had a hit.
Shit.
And I go, hey, these guys are working some no-hitters. That actually made it interesting to me. And Ralph basically throws his pen up and goes, well, you just jinxed it. How did that jinx it?
You're not supposed to talk about it.
If I'm in the clubhouse, if I'm an actual professional player and Dan's the pitcher and he comes back and we've gone 7 innings, I'm not supposed to go, you're working on a no-hitter. That I heard, yes. But as far as like people at home can't talk about it, I mean,
I'll meet you halfway. Come
on, man. It's bad enough that you have to watch your words for all the softies out there that get offended at everything. And now I even got to be like careful to say, like, what can I possibly say? An exceptional game is taking place by these 2 pitchers. You know what I mean? Like, fuck that. And now I'm going to say it. If Habib gets hurt, I hope he doesn't, but if he gets hurt, you heard what my contingency plan is. And if Conor McGregor gets hurt, you know, because even when we didn't say it, injuries happen. So I'm not trying to do a hot take or nothing like that, but I'm really just tired with this whole jinx thing, man.
I'll meet you halfway. I think if you're not involved in any way with any of the teams, yeah, you can say whatever you want. But if like you're watching the Dodgers and you were to say it, then yeah, I think that's fucked up. But you have no ties to Georgia or Hawaii or the Little League World Series, so I think you're allowed to say it.
If somebody was throwing a no-hitter against the Dodgers and I were to go, hey, look, that guy's going to no-hit the Dodgers, would you be like, fuck yeah, you just jinxed the other guy?
Yeah, I'd be happy.
Oh, come on.
I actually do feel George on this argument, but I just feel like if he goes strong on it and uses Khabib and Conor as his crux, we could be in for some.
It's dumb. Look, this card has Derek Lewis versus Alexander Volkov. Lewis delivers most of the time.
Okay.
His last fight was a dud. All right. Volkov earns that spot. That's your co-main. Ryan LaFleur versus Tony Martin. LaFleur came out undefeated, had a couple losses. Tony Martin's all right. Okay, cool. But that's not selling anything. No one's getting excited about that. Sorry, guys. Kunitskaya versus Landsberg. Same thing. C, LaFleur, and Martin. Formiga versus Pettis. Now that's got something because Pettis is probably the guy that's shining the brightest. The problem is Cejudo gave him a loss within the last year. But Formiga's been on a little bit of a run. So Formiga could be looking at a title shot if he were to get it past Pettis. Pettis was hoping DJ won because he hadn't faced DJ, but DJ lost. But that's a fight that counts for me.
So they're just asking for it.
Yeah. Dominic Reyes versus OSP. I'm into it. A young guy, undefeated in Reyes.
I like that fight.
OSP, he's fought them all, you know, and he always comes to fight. So I'm liking a few of these. Herrig versus Watterson has some history. Ghost pointed out Fight Girls. They were on a reality show over 10 years ago, and
they've tried to make that match. They're a few
tough.
Times.
They're both top 20, top 15 gals, so I'm into that one.
Okay.
O'Malley versus Quinones.
O'Malley's fun.
Yeah.
He's got my attention. So
but I think O'Malley just let's get to it. Let's get to these good matchups. I mean, Quinones, like I felt like he was a little further along than Quinones.
The treatment.
Yeah.
But I like O'Malley too. I think he's going to bring.
Yeah.
Maybe
his contract.
Yeah, I mean, you look at. I mean, he's coming off the Dana White Contender Series. They're still using him in all the promos there. I mean,
let me be fair to Jose Quinones.
They placed him.
He's edgy Sage Northcutt.
Quinones is one of those tough Latam guys, and in his defense, he's pretty scrappy, man. He'll put numbers on you if you don't, take him down or give him something to respect in the feet. He's just one of those durable Mexican guys.
4-1 in the UFC.
Yeah, he'll get dropped a lot and being like kind of scrappy fights, but he's just one of those dudes who he's got a chin. He always recovers, real scrambly on the ground. Comes to fight.
Disculpa, Quinones. I didn't realize you were 4-1 in the UFC. Start saying more stuff because I didn't even know you were in the UFC.
Big mustache. He's the Mexican dude with the big mustache.
Yeah, I guess once they start fighting, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember him, but just his name didn't pop out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
but okay, I can't accuse the UFC of protecting him if the guy's 4-1 in the UFC. I mean, to be fair, he doesn't have a hit list.
No,
he's beaten Teruto Ishihara, Diego Rivas, Joey Gomez. I guess he's starting things off, but whatever. All right, next up. But you're not excited about the matchup, right?
I'm
just excited because O'Malley's cool.
Yeah, I want to see. I want to see what he does. Yeah.
Holtzman versus Alain Patrick. Yeah, all right. But that can't survive anything happening at the top. That can't even be called a pay-per-view.
This ain't even. I mean, it's not even hardcore quality, to be honest. If this was, forget about the what's on the top of it. Let's just call it a fight night And is this appeasing the hardcores? And I don't think it is, because as George, I'm not going to run through it. George just did a great job of it. But what you notice when George ran through it, there was maybe 2 or 3 matchups that were even, forget if you cared about them, that actually meant something to their division. Because that's another way to gauge these matchups. What does this mean to the division? Not even a lot of those, to be honest. So
the solution's there. The solution's there. With Pettis, with Poirier and with Nate Diaz, get them on this card and we're safe. And then if all of them make it, oh my God, what a fucking epic night of fights.
Yeah.
But I would like to see more. And I'm expecting more, honestly. I think if we get through Nebraska, it'll be too quick of a turnaround for Dallas. But I think Nebraska, whatever's left from there, maybe something can be made. Kevin Lee says he really wants on this card. I like that as a policy. Yeah. It's just that should Lee fight Khabib if something were to happen to Conor for the title? I don't know. Well, he's only had the 1 win since he lost to Ferguson.
Fight for Khabib too.
Poirier would have I'd be happy for him.
Yeah.
The Poirier would have a problem with it. Ferguson would have a problem with it. You know what I mean? So,
but that's the thing. The guy wearing the belt now got it. Over again, not picking on Ali Quinta, but off an impromptu match.
Well, that was a real freak accident.
Yeah, that's a lightweight division right now. I think we're kind of.
I'd love to see Kevin Lee on this fight card and give him another really, really tough name, and that might be it. But I think I'm telling you, the perfect recipe is the one that I said a second ago. We got to take a break. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Excuse me, Fight Nation 93. I got mic rust. I apologize. We'll be right back.
Their fighting style is described as fluffy, but their radio style is on point. Here are George Goes and Dan.
SiriusXM's The Highway and Ram Trucks have your chance to win an all-new Ram 1500. One grand prize winner will drive off in a new Ram 1500 equipped with the best radio on the road, the SiriusXM 360L. It's the newest and most amazing way to experience SiriusXM. For official rules and to enter, go to SiriusXM.com/RAM. Do that before September 19th. Online entries only. Certain eligibility restrictions do apply. See official rules. No purchase is necessary to enter or to win. It's Monday, August 20th, so we're back from vacation. Thank you to everybody that reached out, told us to enjoy our vacations and that they missed us, and we missed you all, and so we really are stoked to be back. I think one simple question might be, hey guys, why no guests? Like I told our acting editor-in-chief for today, because he's the only editor-in-chief, as you all know, about three weeks ago, the company and Dan Stupp parted ways. He was our original founder for MMA Junkie. He was the MMA Junkie. He's a good friend, and he took us to great heights, man. We won 5 Best Media Sources under his tutelage, but he's no longer with us, and the new editor-in-chief, Simon Simano, had a vacation planned. So he's out. Longtime assistant editor, Matt Erickson, he's on vacation too. So poor John, I think he's had 2.5 straight weeks of him just manning the site. And if I'm not mistaken, along with us Jagoffs, I think Ben or someone else had a few days to take.
Matt did the Pearl Jam thing, right? He's been gone.
Well, that's what I was mentioning. So it's just John as a reporter and as an editor-in-chief doing his thing.
Shout out to John.
Yeah, John's been hustling.
Yeah.
Covering shows.
So, yeah, exactly. Shout out to John for that. But I told John this morning, I go, listen, we were told that this renovation would take 30 days and that it's going to be really loud and noisy. Goes and Dan came here one day and they said they heard it. So it probably would have been almost impossible to do the show. And the construction crew just, you know, they're off it too, and so it got complicated. I went to California to play it safe. Dan and Goes went to another studio here to play it safe, and then we just took some vacation because we all needed it. But I didn't know what we were coming back to. I didn't know if we'd be coming back to buzzsaws and hammering and drilling or what. So I told them, day one, let us get back, get some mic rust off, and do our thing, and then we'll start pounding away, you know, and then booking guests. But so far, I haven't heard one noise, guys.
No, I don't.
I think all the heavy lifting's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in
especially
fact,
from the outside.
Wasn't this kind of curtained off?
Yeah, they had a giant curtain that went all the way across, and it only left maybe like a doorway, really, for you to just go up and make a bet if you wanted to, but that's it.
Those giant screens where the screens were open still. I think when me and Goes came that one day to check it out, they didn't even put the screens in. They didn't fit them in there yet. They just had they had people inside those holes sawing away like it was the Death Star.
Yeah. So that's why there's been no guests. It's just been us here for the last hour and 40 minutes, and we got 20 minutes to go. So let's finish up with a few things here. We got to do some phone calls. Some ears are ringing, I hear. And we also got to do our daily debate. In fact, let's do the daily debate first, because I know we're going to run into another commercial as well. All right, so today marks the return of MMA Junkie Radio. And that means it's time for a daily debate. And here we go. This week's WWE event featured 2 former UFC champions, Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey. Which fighter's return to the UFC would have a bigger impact on the organization? Ronda Rousey or Brock Lesnar?
That's a tight one. I'll weigh in first on this one. I will actually say, even though Lesnar I think is the more likely guy, obviously, to come back, he's already in our lexicon. I don't think Rousey will. I will say Rousey because I think Lesnar does bring the WWE aspect, but I think all those people, all those wrestling fans who went to MMA already have done so, and I don't know how much more we would get with him as opposed to Rousey, where I think we would get the same number, plus that new kind of hot influx that the WWE is also feeling as far as influx of females, which we felt with Rousey, of course, but I think she maybe just brings a little more demographics if she were to come back.
I mean, we're talking about, this question was asked today, and yesterday, she's the WWE champion, so I think that carries a lot. I think she can bring over a lot of pro wrestling fans. I think Brock does as well, but there's only so much he can do, right? If Brock comes over and loses, I don't know that people are really interested in seeing him fight again. I think Ronda, they can position her to maybe get a couple fights here and there and then maybe build back up to fighting the champion again. So I think she could probably bring more.
See, that's the thing, guys. Brock's coming back to a world title. And could Ronda do it? I mean, that would be really, really shoving it down our throats. If Ronda goes, I want to go back to UFC, she can't get another shot at Nunes.
I don't know that they do it that way, though. I don't think they would.
So that alone tells me I believe Brock. Also, I think historically, Brock's pay-per-view numbers outdo Ronda's. Not by much. They both got to the millions, but Brock had the number one for a long time. And then I think he had a 1.2 or 1.3 with Shane Carwin. They both got their butts kicked on the way out, but I think Brock's was so long ago that I think him coming back 5 years later to fight DC, you're going to have a legion of fans that go, I think Brock, arm triangle and top game, and if he hits them, lunch pails, they're going to say their things. I think if Ronda were to come back against the champion, Nunes, it just didn't look good. Rousey didn't look good. So I think you'd have to really, really fight through a group of people to go, oh, you think Ronda's got a chance against Nunes? I just don't, you see what I'm saying? So I think it's Lesnar.
I'm not hating on you.
Yeah.
Now, Rousey, the one thing she does, because I'm just conditioned to, when we talk about the bigger fight or whatever, I always think about pay-per-views. For some reason, I'm conditioned to that. But there was something about what Ronda Rousey did was, whether she sold the pay-per-views or not, it transcended, onto like, the whole planet was overtaken by this young lady. And whether that meant pay-per-views or not, I mean, Google was popping, traffic was popping. Like, those types of records were broken. I know on our website, I think Ronda versus Betch, I think we almost shut the site down. But so there was something to her, but I'm going to stick with my answer of Brock Lesnar. Okay. Now, here's what the crowd said. The people that voted, 1,256. Brock Lesnar, 55%. Ronda Rousey, 45%. So it was pretty damn close.
Yeah.
And it was a great question. Good stuff, Goes. Coming back from vacation, no daily debate rust for you.
Thank you.
Let's take some calls here. If you want to follow these clowns, it's 866-522-2846. He's been waiting the longest. Kevin in Chicago. What's up, Kevin?
What's up, guys? I wanted to talk about people saying Darren Till is just so big. He's so much bigger than Woodley. Look how big he is. He's not really, he's taller. Woodley's way thicker, way stronger, way more powerful. All these people saying, look how big Till is, he's going to knock him out. I don't see that happen. I see Woodley winning a clear-cut decision. Or it might be a staring contest. I'm not sure how that fight goes. What do you guys think?
I know, man. It's a scary thing.
Yeah.
I hope this is a good fight. The welterweight division needs a good fight.
When people say he's so much bigger, I think what they mean is he fights bigger, right? Woodley is very low in his stance. He's very small in there, and Till's very upright and just big.
Well, they also mean the taller thing, though, too.
Yeah,
they mean the taller, which also usually equates to the reach.
Too.
So right away, you're covering a few things,
My most
height and reach.
I think that's what people were talking about too, because my most interacted with tweet this last month was one where all I did was take the video thing of them standing off, that was already credited to whatever channel, and I just I even put size doesn't mean everything in MMA. We've seen that so many times before, but the betting line right after their stare down, it made a considerable jump. Just from that media day, and that's what I posted. And even weeks later, it was just still getting retweets and likes, and a lot of the quote retweets from random people picking up the tweet, going, "Oh, look at the size difference on these two." Kind of like what Kevin was saying. So I am hearing a lot of that too. But it's funny. It's like Carlos Condit was 6'2", even though he doesn't look as big as Darren Till, but Darren Till's 6'1", and Woodley dealt with Carlos Condit fine until granted it ended from the knee injury, but still Woodley was making a good account for himself. So yeah, to Kevin's point, it's not like Woodley's not used to facing bigger guys, So I do think it's overblown, but man, Darren Till is a big boy, and it is a big size difference. So,
Kevin,
I think he's just taller. I think Woodley's a lot more powerful in the hips and the thighs.
Yeah,
I just think him a lot more stronger.
All right, so your pick's Woodley.
Yeah, I think Woodley wins. I also want to talk about, I was wondering if you guys heard about this Covington and Bisping beef. Bisping just can't give Covington any props. He just keeps. When he went to the White House at Trump, he said, "Oh, it's not even the real belt," and you have no shame going there. It's just like Bisping is so jealous, and he's so he's a retired fighter. He needs to start acting like an analyst and not a fighter anymore. He's retired.
But did he say that working for Fox, or did he say it in his podcast?
Yeah, working for Fox.
Oh, he
and
did?
on his podcast, but mainly for working for both, actually. For both instances, he needs to start calling it down the middle.
Right.
Not letting his bias get to him.
Thanks for the call.
If Junkie Nation had a fantasy draft where we all got to pick, like fantasy football, but we picked our fighters, tell me, would Showtime and Kevin, would they be like the easiest guys to predict who they're going to pick before they even pick? Like you just look at the pool. Okay, Kevin's going for this guy. Showtime's going for this guy.
It's an all MMA. Then Marcos would be pretty easy to pick.
You would know his team where he says the guy.
Yeah, there's a few guys you'd be able to figure it out.
And I love both those guys, by the way. I'm just saying, it's like Kevin. Kevin's gonna stick up for the wrestlers, right?
So something happened aside from when they talked as analyst and fighter after Colby
I think he
won.
just made a comment about when he tweeted the picture being in the White House. So it just kind of carried over. But that's kind of Bisping, right? Like he's always been like that.
Well, here's what I heard, guys.
Mm-hmm.
I heard. Well, fuck. Let me think about this.
I'm lost in the drama, so don't go to me on this one. I don't.
No, never mind. Yeah, I better shut my mouth.
Oh.
Let's go to Hal in Chicago. What's up, Hal?
In the immortal words of Conor McGregor, superstition is a sign of fear. What's this garbage I hear about mushes? Things like that.
Did you bet Man U yesterday?
And you know it.
Hey, here's the thing. Like, had it just been a regular loss, then yeah, right. But George, didn't that loss feel different? Like they just never. When's the last time they played that shitty?
Last year.
Oh man, it was so bad.
Brian's supposed to be garbage too, right?
Yeah, they are. I don't mind when Man U plays shitty for 5 minutes, maybe even 10. But when they go 20 or 30, I fucking lose myself, man.
That pass that they threw into the middle, remember that Bailly could barely control? Like shit like that's so amateur.
I know.
It just felt like other forces in the universe were at play.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I could think of.
Hey, I'm happy to finally be watching the EPL, man. Aren't you guys happy for me? Yeah.
Yeah. Who's your squad? Is it Man U?
No. Lucky for you, it's not. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. But right now, I'm feeling the tots because they were really good for me on Saturday. So, just real quick, I know I'm out of time. Gagey is fighting Vic. Man, I'm scared for that guy. I was looking at his stats just to play StatCat for a moment. His punches landed per round is like 8, and punches received per minute, not per round, sorry, per minute is 8, and he lands 8 and he receives like almost 11.
Gagey?
So he's got a negative. No, so he lands 8 per minute and he takes about 10 or 11.
Why would he do that?
Because he has no defense. Like,
I mean, he has that cover-up style, you know?
Right. But I didn't know it was like that kind of a disparity. He's usually out there causing damage. But all right, it's something to keep an eye on.
And it's like you said. He could be blocking some of those. They're just counting with the clicker, like how many punches he took. But obviously he stands right in front of you, so that's a big reason. But the only guy with a worse ratio than him on the card is Tim Williams, who fights Eric Anders, and that probably explains why he's a 10-1 favorite. That's definitely a safe one.
Tim Williams is also the scariest guy.
Good to hear from you.
Scariest picture headshot on DOC.com, by the way.
I haven't seen it.
It looks super scary.
All right, we got to take our final break. It's MMA Junkie Radio on the new Fight Nation 93. Stay close. We'll be right back.
They are the stretch marks on the underbelly of the MMA community. But hey, stretch marks are the new tats. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Did you guys hear about Desmond Green?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's supposed to fight in Moscow in a few weeks, less than a month, and he was involved in an accident in Florida, which we're still gathering details, but it pretty clearly looks like him. It was 5 people were hurt. Wait. 3 people passed away, and I believe 5 people were hurt.
Wow.
Yeah.
2 was last I heard.
Two, yeah, and I think 1 was fighting for their life.
Damn.
Look at me spitting out facts that I guess I don't have. But I know at least 2 people passed away. I think 1 was fighting for their life, and I think it involved a few cars,
like
a semi.
Like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you look at him, he looks obviously very dejected, sad. I mean, I don't know what was the cause of it or what. But it does look like he's healthy. I don't know if he's healthy enough to fight. I don't know what his injuries were, but he was kind of sitting along the.
Sometimes you don't feel those till
a
couple days anyway.
I'm sure he's off though. I'm sure he's off, especially if it involves this. I don't know. I heard that no arrests had been made. It was early in the morning, so I'm hoping that didn't involve intoxication. But I'm sure that if it did, then what would he be doing? Drinking, I guess, during a fight camp. That seems a bit odd. And 2, that I think an arrest would have been made right then and there.
Yeah.
All right. The next thing, James Gallagher, he got walloped. What do you think? A lot of people are piling on. That's what you get for talking shit. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, if you're gonna talk smack, that's what's gonna happen. It shouldn't be no shock to him.
Right, but had he won, he might be getting Caldwell in Dublin. So that's what his talking smack.
It's worth taking.
Got him to. Yeah. So I think he should just keep going. I think that's just the way the sport is. I know people are piling on. I guess that's what people do. But whatever. Dominic Cruz, last thing. Do you think he should be next? Have you thought about it in the last 3 weeks for Dillashaw? We got Moraes, you got Asuncao, Dillashaw, and I guess the Cejudo fight. Are you warm to anything?
I still think it should just be Asuncao. I think there's just too much bad press that can come out of not doing that.
Dan, 15 seconds. Who do you think?
I like the fresh matchup of Moraes, but Asuncao is the most deserving guy.
Okay. Lastly, we got 30 seconds left. I just want to say during our break, we weren't able to talk about and honor our good friend Rick Budo, who passed away over 2 years ago, so we missed the anniversary of that. And but his sister actually came by looking for us, and I guess she just missed Goes. Wow. But it would have been nice to meet her.
Yeah.
I have met some of his friends when I was in New York, but yeah, man, Budo's presence is in here, and we miss him every day. Hey, it's great to be back, and we'll see you all tomorrow with another edition. We're back for a while. I think the vacations will come later in the year, but anyway, we're out of here. For Danny and Dan and Goes, I'm George. Have a nice day. Go out there and be a champion.